Hello, Jeff. How are you?
Hey, very good. How are you, Jafar?
Good, good. Did you have a busy morning today?
Very busy as usual. Like lots of productive meetings, talking talking with different partners and different teams in the business.
No doubt about that. It's good to see some old faces and also some new names I haven't seen in the Twitter space. Thanks, guys, for
Mhm.
joining.
Yeah, couple of people there. Not many yet. Maybe I just sent out a tweet, so maybe the reminder's going out. A few more people joining. Should be good.
Cool, cool.
Thanks for
So,
organising this, Jafar. I look forward to speaking at these things and talking like drilling down on some of the stuff. It's it's unbelievably complex building a platform like this because of all of the tiny little parts that you have to consider very carefully. But
mhm.
it's really refreshing being able to like break it down and explain it in words, you know. So,
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And a little bit about why we started this podcast for those people trickling in. Is
mhm.
that before we would just put our heads down and work, and we wouldn't really care about those small updates. Isn't that right, Jeff?
Yeah, that's right.
And so, yep. And of course, we found out that we love talking to the community, and we want to improve transparency and communication. And as you said, just breaking down little concepts, taking it slowly every fortnight, giving the community the opportunity to ask any questions. Um, and yeah, here we are. So the first iteration of the Ottó Convo number one, the role of plug in the Ottó ecosystem. Shall we kick
Yes.
off?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. So, Jeff, do you mind giving us a quick history recap, a lesson about Ottó and the PlugNet framework? What's the importance of the PlugNet framework in this ecosystem?
Okay. So back in 2017, we worked with two different partners globally to create what we call Plug, which was an organization that's goal was to create an interconnectable blockchain infrastructure and also a blockchain that anyone could deploy for specific purposes. So, a purpose built blockchain infrastructure that anyone could deploy and, interconnect. And that path was very important back then because we saw the future of businesses using blockchains as a type of computing technology for sharing information, sharing data, um, sharing resources, and also empowering, you know, decentralization across organizations. So we did a we had started building the project. We also did a token sale and out of the company in UK, which was the plug token, and that was the white paper for that was discussed our purpose of building a deployable blockchain infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
We were exceptionally successful at doing that, and became core contributors to the Polkadot code base, including creating um, the generic asset module for that. We also went down our own path. So the plug toolkit is um, quite highly developed, especially in the permissions perspective and also the interconnectability perspective. And that plug blockchain has been, or that toolkit has been used by Centrality, is being used by Futureverse, and has been used by a number of other small projects throughout its time. Hopefully, with a lot more to come. It's fully open sourced, so we've
Mm-hmm.
delivered that um, that out, but we also still have teams of engineers that are working, enhancing, building, and adding to that code base and that tool set so that it becomes more usable by more organizations and more applications in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the history of Plug. Very early stage, trying to create a blockchain that had utility at its heart, rather than token price, and
Mm-hmm.
I think we've been very successful on that and learnt a lot along the way. The last year we took up the challenge to find a really good use case for PlugNet to help, and it was important at that time that DeFi was becoming a more defined product in Web3 and a more discussed subject. A lot of people have an idea that if we can have genuine financial products on the blockchain, that it will break down barriers between, inequality or bias or, where you come from, what you look like, what your background is. But and that's a good thing when it comes to money. Like being unbanked or being under resourced by financial institutions is a major disadvantage, causing massive harm in our world all over the
Mm-hmm.
globe. And the concept of decentralizing finance or DeFi is to address that. And I think that most people want that. But as with anything new, there are people who try and take advantage of that. And so they give us a learning curve of um, what the risks are and what the potential damages can be if you do it wrong, if there's not the right amount of protections, and if there's not the right amount of responsibility taken by those that are offering financial products. So at that time, we thought, actually, for DeFi to take the next step, we need to have a responsible investor platform. And one of the benefits of the Plug Toolkit is that it specializes in permissioned blockchains, which means that you can set permissions of who can add contracts to a blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided to build PlugNet, which we now call Ottó Blockchain. And through a rebranding, just to clarify what it is, to separate it from Plug the token and Plug the framework and toolkit project. And we set about building a purpose-built, responsible investment blockchain, which allows people who are KYC AML verified, to bring their digital assets on board and interact with other people who are the same. It breaks down a lot of legal barriers between who an organization who's looking after funds on behalf of their clients has
Mm-hmm.
responsibility for things that what we call counterparty risk. So they have to make sure that whoever they're doing business with, whoever their money is being transacted with, is actually KYC and AML verified. And doing that on the blockchain, there hasn't been a lot of development in that. So the open blockchain, which is all of our blockchains, which have all of our layer one assets on them, are pretty permissionless. And counterparty risk is something that you can't avoid in those environments. So our idea was to create a blockchain that was had specific permissions that would allow you to have a safe place where you know that counterparty risk doesn't exist for your investment.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other things was we think self-regulation is so much better for a free future than government or biased, regulation being implemented on us. So what we wanted to do was create in this space an ability for a product developer to introduce a product, go through a financial product, go through a vetting process and an auditing process,
Mm-hmm.
and have that presented to the community that participate to vote whether it can be part of the offerings available. That is it's something really close to my heart because I've seen a lot of people come in and believe in Web3 and believe in the future that freedom could create for the world, and then seen a lot of people be wrecked and have their money taken and have malicious products or products that aren't tested properly um, destroy their financial situation, which that's really sad, and that's something that you are kind of protected from in the rest of the world. And we were thinking of a decentralized way of doing that, and that means if we can get someone who's a responsible developer to create a valuable product that when the code is audited, it shows that it's not flawed and not malicious, and they can anonymously, but also, officially be doxed, so that there is a ability to verify that they're KYC AML compliant.
Mm-hmm.
They should be able to present to the community to launch their product. And that's something that a permission blockchain can do, whereas another blockchain can't. So it gives us the ability to trust that the products available inside the Ottó blockchain are actually vetted and approved before they're there, before you can interact with them. And that gives us a standardization of documentation and standardization of information available to someone before they interact with an application, which is something that it's unverified. So someone can create a product on Ethereum today, tell you it does something, but there's no process they've been through where someone else has verified that it actually does that. So this product onboarding process we think is going to be extremely valuable because it gives a high level of community engagement, but also standard for before a financial product is offered to the community that chooses to use Ottó.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's really interesting how the PlugNet framework really permeates the whole ecosystem. So not just the Ottó blockchain is used in across centrality, and it's that technology that allows, as you said, Ottó blockchain, which helps us conduct safe DeFi under the security of AML and KYC regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned before, just now, about one of the biggest features of the PlugNet framework is permissioned contracts, adding permissions to contracts. Could you explain in newbie terms to us maybe what that means or an application of it?
Yep. So basically, you have to go through a process of applying for your contract to be included in the Ottó runtime. And in that
Mm-hmm.
application form involves proving that you are not AML, KYC verified, and another step is that your code has documentation.
Mm-hmm.
The Are you still there?
Yep, yep.
Yeah, cool. And then we have external auditors of the contract who provide a external report that the contract does what it says it does and doesn't have any other risks that they can identify. So before and once that gets through that process, which is the onboarding process, it goes to the community who have the last say of whether it gets included in the chain or not. So the investors have,
I see.
or not the people there on the chain. We call the people who use Ottó blockchain investors because they're there because they want to invest in DeFi products.
Hmm.
So those investors have the ability to support the things that they agree with and not as a community and not support the things that they don't agree with. But doing it this way, we don't have to expose common biases like where someone comes from or what race they are or what their religious beliefs are or what their personal beliefs are. It doesn't have to become, we don't have to involve those biases, and so we get to create a even playing field for anyone in a safe way.
Yep, very important. Yep, and it's probably a good time to also move on to the plug token. So the utility of plug token, we've had some in the past with the pre-mine.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to give us a quick recap on that?
Okay, so one of the really great things about the plug token is that it has given us the ability to launch this blockchain without doing a token sale. It's already a
Hmm.
decentralized community and already a well-established number of holders. And I know it's got a way to go till it becomes mass adoption or a large business, but it's a really good start for us. So what we did initially was we allowed the people who held Plug Token to stake it for 6 months, which is a long time and a considerable investment. And they were to receive the very early or the first seed amount of Ottó tokens when the Ottó blockchain launches to go towards decentralizing it and also getting the economy up and running. The only other way to get Ottó tokens, other than the consensus protocol, is to sign up for an account on Ottó and go through the KYC AML process, which is live. Anyone can do that now. You can get your Ottó account and your Ottó address, and you can bind it to your Ethereum wallet already. When you do sign up, when we launch the chain, every account will be given 10 Ottó tokens as well. So it's a kind of a Kickstarter so that you can actually use the blockchain, pay the gas, maybe even if you're early enough, participate in buying a Catalyst token and participate in the consensus of the chain. The next utility that we've announced for the plug token. So plug token is going to be important in the future where where centralized providers connect to the Ottó blockchain. And it's going to be used in a way that backs up and limits the amount of assets that they can bring onto the chain. Because initially, Ottó will only exist. The assets on Ottó will be bought in one-to-one from the layer 1 blockchains. But when we expand Ottó to be used with other exchanges, those exchanges are guaranteeing the deposit and withdrawal of their users. And Plug will be used as a way to facilitate the guaranteeing of their deposits and withdrawals, and also regulating or limiting the amount of deposits and withdrawals that they have based on
Yes.
their risk.
So just exploring that utility. If we did not have like the plug token to facilitate that mechanism, what would the consequences be?
There's no real consequences. It's just that it plug token fits well for that because it's already, it already exists, and it can create can be used in a programmed way to allow people to have something to lose if they breach their limit or they breach their responsibilities, so that the risk isn't taken. So we could create a new token to do that, but we don't have a reason to create a new token for that. Since we can add the utility to the plug token, because it's not a money, it's not a money making activity for us to do, as in like to sell space on the Ottó blockchain. So it would be obscene if we sold the space. It's much better that it's community, provided.
Yeah, utilizing a pre-existing asset that people have already, spent time and money researching and staying with the community on, and just adding that future utility to that already existing token.
So one of the other things, to make that possible, we have to have a comparative value for plug in relation to the activity and assets sitting on Ottó blockchain. So to tie that in, we have created the ability for the plug token to be converted into catalyst tokens. Catalyst tokens are not governance tokens on the chain. They are the token that is used for validating nodes. So they're the consensus token. That gives you a base connection to the value of the blockchain or the value of the future utility of the blockchain, based back to plug token, which enables us to have strong incentives and strong disincentives in the future when plug opens up centralized exchange markets.
And before you mentioned a 6 months pre-mine period, that is very, very long.
Actually,
like a big shout out to it seems like a long time. Big shout out to the
plug
community members. Yeah?
Most of them have been holding for over 3 years. It's a fiercely loyal community that have supported us for a very, very long time while we're building. We're not building quick return products. We're not launching 9,000x staking and stuff like that. We're launching responsible, tech heavy, R&D heavy products. So it's been amazing to have that community behind us this whole time.
Yep, and without that, that loyalty, that dedication to sit through the 6 months pre-mine, it wouldn't be possible to have like a fully decentralized Ottó token.
That's right.
Great stuff. So I think it's a pretty good time to move on to our Discord questions.
Cool.
So we have our first question. Plug tokens are currently ERC20 tokens, but I'm aware that they'll be migrating to their own network in the future. When do you expect this to happen?
Actually, plug tokens will always be ERC20 tokens.
Always ERC20.
Yep. But just like any token that exists on the Ottó blockchain, it exists as a 1-to-1 ratio to what you deposit into the Ottó blockchain. So, for example, if you deposit one
Mm-hmm.
ETH into your account on Ottó from Ethereum blockchain, you will have one ETH in your account on Ottó, and it'll be a native ETH to Ottó blockchain. And when you withdraw that one ETH, it will come out through as a one ETH on the Ethereum blockchain. The same with plug token. If you deposit, one plug token into your Ottó account, it will appear as a one plug token on the Ottó blockchain as a native asset on Ottó. And when you withdraw it, it will appear as one ERC20 plug token on Ethereum. And that will be
Mm-hmm.
something you control as an individual.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And a question from the same user: what is the token symbol and token decimal of the Catalyst token? Has that been decided yet?
Yes. The symbol, we have some interesting designs for it, and I'm not sure if they've been launched yet, but the team will have a plan of when they make that public.
Mm-hmm.
The decimal is 0.
Mm-hmm.
So there's only one. Catalyst cannot be divided into a decimal place.
That is so refreshing to hear. There's
Easy
no
math.
decimals, no zeros. Yeah, done. One catalyst, two
But you
catalysts.
can have 10 catalysts and divide
Yeah,
that by 10.
cool. So the next question we have: the Root Network will be launching a predictive market for FIFA. Will Ottó have anything to do with this product? So any network effect coming in?
So actually, quite amazingly, the Root network is actually hosting the predictive, in a way, hosting it. So the anyone who plays the game will actually have a Root network account. The way that
Mm-hmm.
Ottó is going to interact with the Root network is as a shard world,
Mm-hmm.
and we will have the ability to withdraw the assets that you hold on Root network up into the Ottó blockchain, and vice versa, to withdraw the assets from your Ottó blockchain into the Root network. So, plus a few other really cool um, investor
Mm-hmm.
technologies that can happen. Like, for example, if an investor had if an investment fund had a large number of NFTs, they may be able to hold those in custody on Ottó and fractionalize the ownership of those in the Ottó blockchain, and that be recognized on the Root blockchain. So lots of interesting
That
things that
sounds
are
really cool. So
possible.
more of a supportive role. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how many protocols besides Otto's native DEX and staking services will launch with the network at time of mainnet launch?
I don't know. We have a few key products that are ready to go,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have
Mm-hmm.
some quite interesting DeFi products that
Mm-hmm.
we're hoping can launch at that time. So we've got a couple,
Mm,
but not
yep.
not a lot. But we're also open to talking with people who want to launch on there and bringing them through the process, because now's the time. When the Ottó blockchain
Mm-hmm.
first launches, it will be launching with for the to set up the Catalyst side to begin with, and then the next step will
To
be
secure the
yeah,
network. Yep.
the next step will
Mm-hmm.
be onboarding, your other layer one assets. So the
Mm-hmm.
start, obviously we need to be able to validate blocks securely before we bring valuable assets into the chain. So the
Yep.
first phase
Baby
is
steps.
that, and then the second phase, that's when you can start using other DeFi apps on the chain, and it's EVM compatible, and also native NFT compatible. So there's lots of potential for any DeFi application to be launched on the chain.
Mhm. And to be honest, I'd be quite wary of participating in a DeFi protocol that's just, kind of rushing and bringing products in without securing the system first, doing some testing around that as well.
Yeah.
Especially with all the news going around.
Yeah. Well, we
But
saw last year a really great transaction blockchain, Ronin. They had 5
hmm
validators with 3 keys to sign, and somehow somehow leaked access to 3 of their keys through an ongoing social engineering hack, and their community lost over $600 million.
hmm
And plus their reputation, plus everyone else's trust in the technology that they built. It's really important to put security first when you're asking people to put valuable assets into a programmed environment.
Yeah, there has to be a balance between the security and the speed of your launch.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Ottó blockchain is quite on the money on that.
Yep, I hope so too. I believe
Right, so
so, and
mhm,
I hope so too, and we'll
yep.
prove it.
hmm Another question. You may or may not be able to answer this, but how much TVL do you anticipate Ottó to launch its mainnet with?
None, because we're launching the
hmm
mainnet for we're setting up the security first before we bring in assets.
Yep.
But on asset
hmm
onboarding, I can't comment. Like, I can't responsibly comment on that. But we're working with some really great investors who have a lot of assets that are looking
hmm
for solutions like this. How fast they bring their assets in
hmm
will depend on their own strategies. But we're working with them, and we're supporting them through that and helping them with
hmm
their DD processes and such, so that they can participate. And we really hope it takes off. But most importantly is we hope that it works for the users, and
hmm
anyone can be a user on Ottó.
hmm Yep. And again, with that previous question, in terms of Ottó blockchain, DeFi, the security always is going to come first before attempting to launch with some heavy TVL. But yeah, moving on to our next one. How sooner after Ottó mainnet launch will the Ottó token be listed on Mexi? And will any market making services be offered for the token to provide initial liquidity?
So MEXC will integrate the Ottó token as soon as they integrate with the Ottó blockchain, because there are certain rules about which Ottó accounts can withdraw to an exchange and take deposits from an exchange. So
Mm-hmm.
so initially we'll go through some testing with them. They're on board to help us, and they're a great partner with us
Mm-hmm.
already. And then from a market making perspective, we have no intention of seeding market makers with funds to trade against the community. That's
Mm-hmm.
not the model that we believe as a responsible blockchain should make.
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin Foundation doesn't do market making. It
Mm-hmm.
affects the integrity of the blockchain. I can understand if a token, a utility token, does market making to help flatten like the consumer curve for their
Mm-hmm.
users. But for a blockchain, it needs to stay um, secure and hold its integrity in a different kind of way. And market making is not one of those things that helps a blockchain grow and become stable. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's not the blockchain or project token, it's the community's token.
Mm-hmm. And a bit of a cheeky one for me, actually. So with MEXC integrating with Auto Blockchain, do they have to do the KYC process as well to work with us?
Yes, actually, we have quite quite comprehensive legal documents with any exchange that we work with on both sides. MEXC
Mm-hmm.
is regulated and controlled and managed within Singapore, who have actually a world leading practice on um, crypto exchanges and financial regulations on that, including a
Mm-hmm.
sandbox, the government funded sandbox. So it's actually a really, I'm really comfortable working with them from a legal perspective.
Mm-hmm. That's good to hear. And our last question on Discord. In a decentralized, trustless world, what steps are you taking to make third parties comfortable with relying upon the auto KYC process? So this is more of a philosophical question. But what do you think, Jeff?
You know, I I love decentralization because it allows people to have freedom. If you own your own data, if you're self sovereign as a person, and no one can take that off you, you
Mm-hmm.
you're free. And so, asking someone to complete KYC so that they
Mm-hmm.
can invest their digital assets is not because we need to collect your information. And it's not because it adds value to us to own that information. It's because it opens the door up to financial services and financial institutions in a decentralized, um, non-government controlled way, and it's a kind of self-regulation. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think Otto is not here to replace those fully open blockchains like Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
Otto's here to let you take some of those digital assets that you have on those blockchains and use it in a investment environment, which has to be
Mm-hmm.
fair and accountable in a different way. Because other
Mm-hmm.
people are asking for your money in exchange for a return on your investment,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what we're seeing is where people are doing that in the open blockchains, more often than not, um, terrible things are happening. Including, like I have to say this, but I'm all for freedom. I'm for freedom of responsible people. I'm not here for freedom of people who want to harm others. I would like there to be, places where, you know, that harm doesn't
Mm-hmm.
happen. You know, I want my neighborhood to be safe, and I want my friends and family and the people I care about to be safe. And that goes the same in the
That's true.
investment
Yeah.
environment. And that's the purpose of doing what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there would be a group of people who would thrive in a decentralized, trustless world that can keep themselves safe. But for a lot of people out there as well, it's going to be a hard world to navigate um, without, relying upon the regulations for security.
Hmm.
And I also like what you said about, how auto blockchain is not here to replace Bitcoin and Ethereum. We're more of a bridge between, the traditional finance and the the DeFi, the new finance that's coming in.
Yeah, it's kind of like a side garden, you know.
Yeah. So last calls for any questions on our Discord. We've got 4 more minutes left, so we'll give them a minute or two. Jeff,
Cool.
if anyone wants to post any questions. But in the meantime, do you want to tell us what you're looking forward to the most with Ottó Blockchain? What's been keeping you up at night these days?
Um, Actually, I've been working really hard on some really boring stuff like how to incentivize node distribution
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So that it's hard to explain. Like I'm I'm a I'm an accountant. I'm an economist. I'm
Try us.
a crypto enthusiast, and I'm a mathematician. And
Mm-hmm.
you know like that's the areas that I'm like strongest in, and I get obsessed with you know like testing scenarios and that sort of thing. And I'm trying to find a way that the blockchain benefits from the core runtimes that exist and how
Mm-hmm.
that incentivizes decentralization of nodes. So more people participating and providing nodes to the chain. Because it's
Mm-hmm.
the nodes that are the security, not just the funds that are locked in the nodes. So so
Mm-hmm.
that's been consuming for me. But the thing I want to happen the most, or I'm looking forward the most to personally as a user of Ottó, is the immersive integration. Um, Being able to have a decentralized credit card to pay my bills with, really
Mm-hmm.
that's settled to the merchants in cash, not in tokens, um, is it would just make such a huge difference because the disparity between Web3 life and my, like fiat life is quite obscene, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the case for anyone who's actually um, spending a lot of time or has a lot of their assets in Web3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and can't wait for it as well. It's a huge milestone.
Mm-hmm.
And that probably ends our podcast session for today. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to our first ever Ottó Convo. Next one will be up every fortnight, Fridays, 1 p.m. NZ Daylight Time. And yeah, thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. I really look forward to it.
And we'll see you guys. Yeah, see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.